What's up YouTube? Welcome to the channel. In today's video, we'll take a look at a basic API call to OpenAI. This is like your first API call that you can make. For this example, we'll just translate some text from English to Spanish. We'll basically have three main parts. We'll create a basic UI, we'll set up the API call, and then we'll test it. This is the first part to a series, so we'll definitely build in terms of complexity as well as features on this, but it's a starting point that we can't skip. All right, let's get right into it. Okay, let's get started. So the first thing we're going to need to do is just create a basic UI. So we'll add a text field for input. We'll add a button that we can tie the translation API call to. And then the last thing we'll do is just add something where we can display back the response. And I think we'll just use another text field for that. So first here is a text field. Let's go ahead and give this a label. We'll just call it input. And then what we'll do is add a button. This button we can just say, let's say translate. And then we'll need something to display back the response. So let's just duplicate this text field here and let's call it output. Boom. So that is the UI done. And the next thing we'll do is head over to the API calls. So you're going to add an API call. And the first thing you're going to want to do is get some information from your OpenAI account. So the first thing you're going to need is your organization. And then the second thing you're going to need is your API code. And so the way that you get these is, number one, you need a paid account, and then you need to upgrade your account so that it has the API enabled. Now, once you have these keys, you just go ahead and add them in like this. You just have OpenAI-organization, then you have authorization. And then one note here is you will probably have to add this bearer in separately. It's going to just give you everything that comes after it. So once you have this call set up with the post and with the API URL, you're ready to get started with the body. So this is a very basic outline of an API call to OpenAI. Has two main parts. Number one, the model, and then number two, the messages. So for the model, obviously we're using GPT-4o here. And then we're gonna give the prompt in two parts. One is system, one is user. The system prompt is basically the instructions, and then the user prompt is the thing that these instructions should be applied on. So for the system prompt, let's just give it a very basic prompt, and we'll say translate the following text. And then the text that we want to translate will be, today I walked my dog. So before we go any further, let's just make sure that we did everything right so far and test this out. Okay, so we can see did come back successful. Great. So sometimes you may notice that these responses come in oddly formatted. So let's just add some more text here and see what we get. And it's not giving it to us. That's okay. There we go. This should do the trick. Okay, here we go. So here you can see we have some text that looks pretty weird. Obviously, we don't want that. One thing you can do to address that is to go into the advanced settings here and turn on decode response as UTF-8. So now that we have this turned on, if we test it again, you can see this should, in theory, fix this issue. Yes. Great. So let's go back to the settings for one more second, because I do want to highlight one thing. If you do intend to publish this app, you're definitely going to want to switch on this private mode. What this does is host it as a cloud function. It gets it out of the app, and then this way your credentials are not exposed. So the next thing we want to do here to make this dynamic is to add a couple of variables. So let's add in language code. And the reason we're adding the language code here rather than the language type dot, because we can pull this very easily off the device. And the other thing is going to be the text that we want to translate. So let's just go ahead and add these in. We'll update this prompt a little bit. So we'll translate the following text into the desired language code. And then let's just add this in here. Space. Boom. And then here, rather than just having static text, all we're going to do is add in this variable. So now in theory, if we did this right, we'll be able to, number one, define the language that we want to translate into. And then number two, translate the text in a dynamic way. So before we go any further, let's go ahead and test this one more time. We want to translate it to Spanish. Language code there is ES. And then walked dog. We'll add some text here to make sure it's working. So great. Looks like we are good to go. The last thing we're going to want to do here is predefine a JSON path. Now, we could just type it out by basically typing in .message.content, but if we just predefine this and name it the translation, it'll be easier for us later on. Let's go ahead and save that. Now, the next thing we need to do is just head back to the screen that we're working on, and we need to plug in this API call. So let's go ahead and add an action to this button. On tap, action, say API call. And let's add our translation. So we have two variables to add here. The first one is the language. We'll just keep it static for now. But in theory, you could pull this in dynamically as well. And then the other thing we'll pull in is the input text. Now, if this succeeds, what we'll do is we'll update the form field. So we're going to go text field 2, and we'll go from the action output right here. We'll go JSON body, predefined path. This is where that step makes our life easier, and confirm. And last thing we'll do is add a snack bar here, just in case it fails. So this API call should now be set up and ready to go. Obviously, this is a very basic example, but you can use this in a number of different ways, and we'll build on it in the future. So to test this, let's go ahead and just reload the app. And let's head over here and give it a try. This is a test. And translate. And there we go. Works as intended. Great. Okay, and that's the first part of our OpenAI series. We'll definitely be building on this in the next few videos. It'll be increasing both in terms of complexity as well as the different features that we're using. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a thumbs up and a subscribe. We're just getting started, so it goes a long way, and we'll see you in the next one.